Greetings, friends. Reformed Stoic. Back with another video. First one in a little bit of time. It's been hard to be consistent. But this is about the love of the world has grown cold. This was a prophecy directly from Christ. There are some Christians out there and, more occult, esoteric, mystic Christians that detest the validity of the book of Revelation, but this came straight from the Gospels. By the way, I've heard it said that Orthodox aren't exactly crazy about the book of Revelation. Anyway, moving on. Christ said that because of lawlessness, the love of the world will grow cold. Now, in terms of what exactly he meant by lawlessness, there's all kinds of denominations that want to call that a smoking gun, like lawlessness. He's talking about the law of the Old Testament. Boom, Gnostics BTFO'd. Or if I try to appeal to, well, he's talking about the fall of the lawlessness, or he's talking about the fall of the law of the church that he's building. And then Catholics or Orthodox would say, boom, well, yeah, now people aren't going to the church anymore, the one true church, Catholic Church, Orthodox Church. Boom. Your feel-good, esoteric theology, BTFO, Catholicism defended. Pro-Jewish law, Jehovah's Witness type things defended. Like, people are really hung up on that term, lawlessness. For my definition, I would just say, just take a look around and what does it look like, assuming the premise that we are in fact living in the times when the love of the world has grown cold. Well, a part of that is lawlessness. And what does the lawlessness look like to you? I think it's obvious that the churches have lost their hold, more or less. And that could be an entire video in and of itself. But if you want my perspective, my feel-good Gnostic theology, it's obvious. People have left the churches. The churches are still here. They're louder than ever on the internet. I believe we've kind of seen a time, basically since Trump has gone into office. Like, I think the internet was leading a lot of people down this kind of new age spiritual path. And then the internet became very effective at leading people down some sort of a Christian path. And I've gotten to a point where I've said that actually is the psyop, the internet leading you back to the churches. It's like the last dying breath of the churches, massive funding. Every church, Catholics got their Trent Horn and all their people. Orthodox got their Jay Dyer. Protestants got their people. Baptist Church has their Pastor Anderson, even though I have a feeling that that's not really the guy. A little bit of lazy reasoning here. I apologize. Like I said, I'm eternally rusty on videos because I just can't stay consistent. But this video is basically going to be an explanation of a little bit about the love of the world growing cold, where I believe that started, what it means. And it ultimately is kind of not a prediction from me, because I'm saying it's something that already happened, but it's my observation. And I would say that social media, dating apps taking hold marks the fulfillment of Christ's prophecy of the love of the world growing cold. And just to finish up my last thought, you have all these people trying to identify psyops in the world. I do believe that this great resurgence that we're seeing in church Christianity, where people are being led there from the internet, I believe that's kind of like a last dying breath of a lot of the churches. I don't believe that the churches are going to die, but obviously where I'm at in my beliefs, I don't necessarily think the end of my perennial quest is, oh, I realize that the Catholic Church is the true church, or I realize that Orthodoxy is the true church, or I realize that I'm going to be a Second Reformed, Presbyterian, Southern Baptist, whatever, what have you. For anybody who's been paying attention, I came to the conclusion that, probably the best churches were Orthodoxy and Catholicism, but where it all fell apart for me is hell. But there is hell. I just don't think people know what it is. I think that eternal conscious torment was basically invented by a combination of Augustine and Dante's Inferno. But this video could really just kind of hop all over the place. But yeah, we're here. For anybody who's keeping score, I've said as much on X, Twitter. We are here. For anybody keeping score for end of the world prophecy, and somebody like me, it's like, well, I don't even really know what it means anymore, because I question Revelation at this point, the book of Revelation. But what I don't question is the Gospels. I question the interpretation of the Gospels because people are all over the place, but I'm putting a very strong emphasis on the words of Christ, and he said there will be wars and rumors of wars. And anymore, there's always wars and rumors of wars, but you can look right now, it's like, well, there's a war with Russia and Ukraine. Well, there's a rumor of a war with Iran. So we certainly are fulfilling that. We do have the wars and the rumors of wars, but I feel like that has been there for quite some time. And lawlessness. So as far as my definition of lawlessness, I just think it's self-evident. Maybe I think that no church in particular was 100% correct, theology-wise. But we obviously see evidently that the United States was a Christian nation of some sorts, and now atheism. I mean, if we look at the instruments of lawlessness, it could be like cultural Marxism, atheism, radical leftism, sure. But I think a lot of people on the right are doing things in the name of Christ that are just absolutely all over the place. And what we're finding is that Christianity has become relativism. I find it somewhat ironic that people are always saying that relativism is the enemy of Christianity. I think that Gnosticism solves it. I think Gnosticism solves the question of relativity. And then also, either being a pure Jew or a Jehovah's Witness would solve the problem of relativism. Because what I've identified is that the New Testament and the Old Testament are, in fact, in contradiction with each other. You're either going to have the bash the babies' heads on the rocks, geopolitical dominance of Yahweh's chosen tribe, Jewish nationalism of the Old Testament, or you're going to have the New Testament, love everyone, show your love for me like your love for one another, not just love your brother, love your enemies, forgiveness, lack of judgment, leave the world behind. Christ was ushering in the system of leaving behind tribalism, and I've identified the Old Testament as tribalistic Jewish paganism. I mean, all other pagan religions had various kinds of animal sacrifice and burnt offerings and human sacrifice to their God, and the Old Testament, of course, is no exception, where Christ, or God, Yahweh, whatever the fuck he is, was given portions of virgins. Like, there was 70,000 goats, and the Lord's share was this, and there was 72 virgins, and the Lord's share was this. He was given shares of virgins. But I digress, just really hopping all over the place, feeling some type of way. People are going to get sucked into this loveless behavior. Now is the time to, you either do what Christ said or you're going to get sucked into savagery, because the love of the world has grown cold. For whoever's keeping score, boom, mark it off. We're there. We're there. And what comes along with it is the wars and the rumors of wars and the lawlessness. So for any confusion about wars in rumors of wars, because we have reached the love growing cold, that means that we've reached the lawlessness, and that in turn means that we've reached the wars and rumors of wars. So we have a definite marking point as far as where we are in end times revelation, according to me, of course. But I would say that the love of the world has grown cold, and the people who really feel it are the chosen ones. So, sorry if that sounds cheesy. I feel like a lot of things I'm saying lately sound cheesy. I just made a very melodramatic post on X, but I don't want to be self-diminishing. It is what I believe. But I think a lot of people aren't really interested in what I believe in this time. And it's why I'm going to be stepping back from my live stream. But to be clear, I might still make some tweets. I don't know, man. I'm tempted to just delete my Twitter account. I think X is completely useless. I think I followed the wrong people right out the gate. I might need to start over there. But I'm allowed to make tweets. I've been saying for a long time the emphasis of this channel is to make videos. Videos are more productive if I have something to say in terms of like what I believe and my ideology and what I want to teach people. Videos are great for that. Streaming is just sitting around bullshitting, wasting time, trying to get validated, trying to feel special, trying to feel popular. The day before yesterday, it became very, 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 very clear to me that I don't want to talk to my mom anymore. And yesterday, it became clear to me that I don't want to stream anymore, at least for a sizable portion of time. It's so brutal, man. The same cycle has been happening over and over and over and over again, where I get to a point where it's like, hey, I'm only going to stream once a week. It's like, oh, I guess I'll stream twice a week. I guess I'll stream every other day. I guess I'll stream like 2 days on, 1 day off. That has happened over and over and over again. And now we've reached the point, once again, where it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going in circles. It's time to step back from the stream. Once again. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of, mention that I'm not going to be streaming for hopefully a very long time. And the love of the world has grown cold. I define lawlessness as, even though, churches, I believe, are flawed. I believe every church is flawed on some level. I believe that the Catholic Church and Orthodoxy have accurate traditions. It's like it's Jengas, and there's one Jenga piece that you pull out that kind of makes the whole thing crumble as far as being the one true church. I believe that beating people over the head with a fear of eternal conscious torment is wrong, just ethically and theologically. And yeah, it has kind of sent me to a place where I'm just not feeling like I belong in any church anymore. And for, all the blinking that's going on, I have something in my eye. That seems to happen all the time. I always seem to have something in my eye. It's usually this eye, but now it's this eye. Go figure. Anybody who's a chosen one, anybody who's on the true seeker path, which I believe is the true path outside of any church, you should be feeling it. People are lost. X is an absolute hate machine. There's a Hegelian dialectic hate machine where on one side, Democrats are taught to hate Republicans and conservatives. On the other side, Republicans and conservatives are taught to hate everybody other than white people. Even though, interestingly enough, if there's something wrong with me, like, white people caused it. My white parents and the white people I grew up around. But yeah, I also grew up around Alaskan Natives and Asians. And to be fair, I was more around white people, so. But to finish that thought off, not saying that I'm a cultural Marxist or anything. I still identify with like white nationalist kind of sentiments. But I tell you that no one is good, not one. That's what I said at the end of my tweet. Nobody's good. Everybody's to blame. Some 41 actually said that. We're all to blame. Interesting. Broken clock's right twice a day. Yeah, I think everybody's going nuts, man. I think everybody's going nuts. And I wanted to say something about the Cave of Wonders. I don't necessarily think Aladdin was purposely this super deep movie. I just think you can look at the Cave of Wonders in Aladdin as, Plato's cave. Plato's cave, where the people are brainwashed by the shadows on the wall, and then somebody leaves the cave, they see the real world outside. They return to the cave trying to cast the pearls before swine, and they're ultimately killed by people who are like what Morpheus said. These people are so dependent on the Matrix that they are dangerous to you. When Morpheus said that in the Matrix, these people are so reliant on the Matrix that they are ultimately your enemies because they serve the Matrix. That's just like the people who leave Plato's cave returning and being killed by the people in the cave. A lot of people have correctly identified the Matrix as leaving the cave. And I think maybe by accident you can look at the Cave of Wonders as just more details and really connecting Christ to Plato's cave, because people in the cave are attached to the material possessions. The cave is filled with gold and jewels and treasure, and people who seek the lamp usually are devoured by the cave because they cannot resist the temptations of the cave, which I believe is the temptations of the material world. Now, as far as what the lamp itself is, that can be a bit confusing because, it's a genie, it's a jinn. I went along with that with my last song, Cave of Wonders, where I say to beseech the jinn. But ultimately what the genie does, trying to make it consistent, is he ended up being trapped in the Cave of Wonders because of his monkey, Abu, who touched the big shiny jewel. So even though he was able to reach the lamp, he was still trapped inside of the Cave of Wonders. But he beseeched the jinn to ascend beyond the ground, which he was trapped within. So I feel like I've been able to derive a kind of system of enlightenment, of Christian mysticism, from maybe the unintended symbolism of the Cave of Wonders. That you must leave the world behind to obtain the inner alchemy, which I would say is symbolized by the lamp. Touch nothing but the lamp. And I'm going to be trying to live my life more like that. But, on my retreat from the world, I will be, if I have anything interesting to say, I will be trying to say it on my channel. And I think this is going to mark a clear direction in my channel. I trolled Tariq Nasheed's space on X and said we was Kangs. I had a big rant about, I would say that that's my last MGTOW, red pill, black pill, normies would say incel rant. I think that's the last one. It's kind of cringe when I say, Milton told me this or Milton told me that. Yeah, I have some sort of a system where I basically try to talk to my higher self, and I come to conclusions through it. I'm writing a book about it, by the way. I will make a video eventually talking about my book, because I'm finishing up the last chapter right now. But basically, Milton said that, Mama said medulla oblongata. What Milton said is that any success that I get from my channel is going to come from guiding people toward the true love of Christ. So that's very far separate from, trolling Tariq Nasheed or going on and on and on about the black pill. I've tried to guide people toward the truth of the black pill. It's obviously some sort of a psyop. People roll their eyes when I say that. I actually believe that it's controlled by different variants of the Order of Nine Angles and the 764 cult, which is involved in absolutely horrible things. And they like to try to groom black-pilled incels into doing mass shootings. So it's absolutely horrible, and I definitely 100% feel like I know in my heart that people like Todd Thundercock are involved in that. And it's absolutely horrible and unspeakable, and hell awaits those people. But I'm going to be I'm following my instincts. It's telling me to just, we have these discussions on my stream, like, oh, join a book club, and you got to talk to people, and you got to do this, go sit at a bar by yourself, and I just know that I'm never going to do that, like, anytime soon. I can just see that, and it kind of makes these kind of sometimes learned hopelessness streams where people just kind of try to, like, make me feel better, or we have, like, a depressing discussion, and it's time to move forward, but I'm not going to be moving forward with joining a book club or sitting at a bar by myself. Yikes, that sounds cringe. I am going to be leaving the world behind, for real. I've already been taking baby steps toward that direction. But yeah, I don't want to be redundant, If I have something to say, videos, community posts, maybe X. If I have anything else to do on X, it's going to need to just be completely reworked, unfollowing everybody and starting from scratch. I don't know exactly how to describe it or exactly what it means, but I have a desire for attention-seeking behavior. I want to grow my platform, and I think I could grow my platform, but I need to have consistent content, and it's not going to be like black-pilled shit, bro. I make that kind of content to try to kind of lure people into my real content, which is what I'm saying right now. The love of the world has grown cold. I'm calling it. And, the black pill stuff is like, as a result of the love of the world growing cold, you have coped by becoming black pilled. I believe that people are being called to a kind of higher mystic spirituality. It's all over the place. You can find more or less in Buddhism and Confucianism and other kinds of spirituality as well. Christ puts the emphasis on being kind to people, but also leaving the world behind. And I think when the love of the world has grown cold, which it has, that implies more isolation. You show love as you come across people, but because so many are lost, they can only serve to drag you down. Do not cast your pearls before swine, and the majority of the world has become swine. Just like in Pinocchio, when we have gone to Pleasure Island and stared at our phones and subscribed to OnlyFans and given super chats to influencers and taken part in party Seth Rogen degeneracy culture, and now people are being turned into donkeys and thrown into their cages, and I believe your cage is just isolation, but it's a kind of basically like embittered, rage-filled, black-pilled isolation. Isolation is going to be the fate for many. I wouldn't put any limits on it. I believe that, many Chads are going to be isolated, maybe after developing serious drug addictions or contracting STDs. Many popular women on social media are going to become socially isolated, where, like, getting dicked down is basically just like a drug, and women will eventually realize that, and they will be beyond a place in life and an age where they feel like marriage is even realistic anymore. A lot of people are headed towards isolation. So I'm seeking the healthy isolation where I'm going to be trying to do things like Wim Hof again, maybe some meditation, and then, just listening to music that I enjoy, walks in nature, all the things that I do, reading, drumming, working out, more of it, more consistent with it. I believe, making music, videos, creative things that I do. Just, there's, when I stream, that's 2 hours. What else could I do with that 2 hours? There's all kinds of things I could do with that 2 hours. I could spend that 2 hours reading, 2 extra hours of reading, or more breath work and qigong, more being creative, spend that time every day making songs. There's absolutely other things I can be doing with that time. And so for the time being, I'm just going to be accepting, you know what, man? There's no quick path to like becoming some sort of a popular influencer. I think if you read between the lines, you know, you got Russell Brand, who was a movie star, talking about Kanye West, who was already like one of the most famous rappers of all time. You got the top tier influencers of the Paul brothers who were signed to Disney. You don't really have to squint that hard to see it, bro. YouTube is television. Everybody who's made it on YouTube was already successful from being a musician or a movie star. I don't think it's a thing for people like me to organically become famous, and I think maybe I had a shot, and I believe that's why I was attacked by cybernetics agencies like Intrepid Corp. Because I believe that ever since YouTube has been owned by the CIA, every single potential influencer is monitored and observed, and it's decided behind the scenes by establishment powerful men whether or not you are allowed to procure an audience. And it has basically been decided that I am not allowed to grow an audience. That's why they blasted my channel with all kinds of sock accounts, and that's why if you check the amount of followers I have, it's always, I believe, 24.6 thousand, because as real people follow my channel, they unsubscribe with some of their sock accounts. They use some sort of a Intrepid Corp technology to do that. It has been decided that I am not allowed to grow an audience, and nobody who that is decided for will grow an audience. There's no organic celebrities. Maybe there was a time, and if you look at, you know, like Justin Bieber was supposedly an organic celebrity. Look at his fate. Look what happened to him. Sounds like horrible things happened to him. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but I have correctly identified this world as very wicked. And, you know, as I've said many times, it can be explained with regular Christianity that we're in a fallen world and we all have original sin. And, you know, I mean, Jesus talked about worldliness, and I think regular Christians acknowledge that to an extent. But I do believe in my search for the truth, be it a theologian, I've identified something beyond the church. And if you read my work, The Subversive Gospel of Christ, the Subverter, I think it's just called the Subversive Gospel, I say that people should go to the Catholic Church for a while until they get through RCIA, First Communion, and they complete the first 5 months devotional to the Sacred Heart of Mary. That is like my system of initiation, infiltrating the church, which sounds dramatic. I mean, you basically just be a Catholic for a while. And if you decide that you want to stay, you can. And I mean, the Mass is great, and you just attend the Mass and you take part in the Eucharist. There's certainly nothing wrong with it. And, you know, maybe like you stop going to confession all the time, because I really don't think it's necessary. Confession is really exhausting. It's like, oh man, if I ever... But it's also healing. Like, you know, it felt good going to confession for a while. But ultimately, after the 5 months was up, and I was just having experiences, like I was being harassed by guys in military uniforms. And I feel like people wearing military uniforms to Mass is like, wow, that is cringe, beyond cringe. But you know what, guys? I just want to say preemptively that there's a kind of tone that I have right now, and it sounds kind of bitter, and I sound a certain kind of way, and maybe people are tempted to point it out. This is the beginning. This is why I need to take a break. This is why I need to just disappear. That's what everything is telling me. That's what my instincts are telling me. That's what literally what I believe maybe to be my higher self has told me in the conversations we've had. I'm not going to go to the bar and sit by myself and try to figure out how to get laid. I'm not going to join a book club. I'm going to fully embrace isolation and try to take this extra 2 hours, which really isn't that much. You know, you could literally just watch a couple extra episodes of a show, like always have a TV show you're watching. You'd be like, I'm just going to watch 2 episodes of that show every day instead. It's going to be easy to fill up that time with something else, and I'm going to try to make it productive. And hopefully I'm going to learn something. At some point, I will pick a date in the future and say, at this date, I will start streaming again, maybe once a week or something. But it's too early for that. It's too soon for that. So, if you feel like you're on a path similar to mine, I think that this is really like kind of a universal thing for chosen ones or people who believe that they've seen through the veil and they see what's really going on. The love of the world has grown cold. There's lost people everywhere. You can try to help them, but it's going to leave you kind of feeling like a douchebag. It's going to leave you feeling like you did something wrong, because this is ultimately what these lost people do. They project. They try to make you feel like you're the problem. And the curse of the chosen ones is that ultimately you were never the problem. You dealt with so much death by 1,000 paper cuts that at some point you did become the problem for a little bit. But I believe that cycle has come to an end for me. And I see that, I'm not moving forward. Really, people's advice is trying to move me backwards. Like, oh, just go to a bar and learn how to get drunk so you can fornicate. It's like, I'm struggling to make progress. The black pill is a lot of people being brainwashed by people who literally want them to cause harm to people and to do horrible things. And I've seen through that long ago, but I feel like a lot of the people that I'm surrounded by online are black pillars, and they're people pretending to be black pillars. And unfortunately, you guys, it's very difficult to find a community of people who are all enlightened, where your live streams can always be productive. And I'm not trying to blame other people, because I'm also regressing and I'm just not getting where I'm meant to get. Well, I'm trying to get there now, and it's cringe to say, but on some level, the ego wants to eat. The ego wants validation. Look at me. I'm like Andrew Tate. I have so much sex, and I'm so important, and everybody thinks I'm so important. Look at me. I'm Jay Dyer, the theologian. I have so many views. I get so many super chats. I'm so much better than everybody. I'm a rock star, a theologian. Live at the Sullivan Arena, it's Jay Dyer. He's so holy. He's so enlightened. Catch my underwear, Jay Dyer. and I sound bitter. I sound bitter because I can't reach that level. And it's time. It's time for me to go where I believe I've been meant to go for a long time. I think it's the path that I was trying to walk as an occultist before I found Christ. And that is ultimately the conclusion of my theological journey. Is I found Christ and all the institutions attached to it. In passing, a quick refutation of Catholic theology is the Catholic Church, the church founded on the rock by Peter, the one true church. There was other early churches. The Marcionite church was actually very large, and it had a political battle that it lost, because I believe the Catholic Church had always been backed by the strength and funding of the establishment, of the earliest establishment, which is why when people say that, the Catholic Church rules the world, or things like the Jesuits, it's pretty close to accurate. It's up there. It's not something that should be laughed off or just you know what that means if you're a real one. It shouldn't be laughed off. But I can tell you what, I think maybe some of the earliest Catholic priests were rabbis, because from a Gnostic perspective, you're being tricked into worshiping the demiurge and taking part in Jewish paganism and being a nationalist Jewish supremacist. And every time you read the Old Testament like it's super important, you are celebrating the national history of the Jewish people and their tribal pagan god. But when you throw out Christ with that, you're throwing out the baby with the bath water, the Son, the true Son. So I think I've said about everything that there was to say in this particular video. It's not the best video ever. A lot of my videos aren't. Maybe we'll start getting to some real insights as I walk this path. And, you know, if I come across a girl that wants to date me, then so be it. But I think it's time to just give in. This is just surrendering to the calling, and it's unpleasant, you know. It's unpleasant to be isolated for a while. But I stopped calling my mom for like 2 weeks, and then I talked to her again the other day, and I'm like, yeah, like this is completely negative. Like this just needs to stop. It's like relapsing on a drug. And, you know, I've been there trying to quit weed, and then I fail, but then eventually I succeed. And that's what I found. It's like, you know, the stream is just a drug and a distraction. Talking to my mom is just doing something that I know is a mistake, that Milton has told me is a mistake. I'm ready to push through. I'm ready to just, I have no one. It's okay. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. In fact, it means that I'm, on some level, I am more up here. There's no way to sound it without sounding conceited. It's going to sound like cope to a lot of people, but a lot of worldly people with phones in their face and distractions in their face and like, oh, I'm better than you because I have more money than you. I'm right because women want to have fornication with me. You're wrong because you don't have a lot of money. You don't have a lot of stuff that Christ told you didn't matter. This life does not matter. Now, you have to be careful how you take that, because then it's like, oh, well, let's just be a big piece of shit and do whatever I want. No, you want to do what Christ said. But this life can be interpreted to be the worldly life projected by grifters, influencers, the television, media, and, you know, there's little hints of entertainment that's beyond, you know, the music that I listen to. Maybe the lyrical content isn't on point, but the way it sounds, the way Cocktail Twins sounds, the way that The Cure sounds sometimes, the way that Slow Dive sounds, like, I guess, shoegaze, like, just the etherical, heavenly presence that I find is in some media, in some music. Maybe you have to kind of project it there yourself, but there's a way, my friends. There's a way out of this world. And me being harassed like I was for so many years, I believe that that's a sign that I was on the right track. And somebody left a comment the other day reiterating what I said. Wow, that's profound. When you see through the veil, the beast attacks you. And I think that's exactly what happened to me. But the beast realized that I was more powerful than it, and I cannot be conquered. And so they moved on. It's time for me to leave behind society and live with the jellyfish, my friends. Cue Patrick Star crying. More videos soon, I imagine. Maybe more music soon. More creative content. The streams aren't creative. The streams are just not moving forward. I'm ready to move forward, my friends. Video's long enough. Until next time, God bless.